Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Flip the Script with Vic. It's your host, Victoria Nielsen. Today's guest is one that I've wanted to have on the podcast for a really long time. So I'm so excited that she's here today. Miss Raina Rose Williams is a fellow podcast host, one of my retreat participants, a beautiful human, a coach, a dreamer, such a grounded goddess. Like I could go on and on and on. Raina, you are just one of the most open and special people I have ever met. From the very first instance that we met in a women's circle together, you struck me A, because you commented on something that I said, but B, you just had such a grounded presence yourself. And I think you didn't even know it at the time to watch you blossom over these last couple of years of our friendship has just been really beautiful. And I'm so glad you're here.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Oh my gosh, it has been a long time coming, but also it's the perfect time. It is the perfect
Exactly.
time for us to sit down and do this. So thank you. And I feel very similarly that I was immediately drawn to your energy when we first sat in circle together. And then when you started just sharing your work, it feels like it just hits me in the exact right spot. We all have those creators that really feel the most authentic to us for what we need, and you're definitely one of those people. And yeah, it's an honor to get to not only know you, but um, now to get to be here and having conversation together with, whoever wants to listen. So I'm excited.
I love that. And we just got back from Tucson together. So Raina came on my Art of Unwinding retreat that I just held as part of my Monarch Mystery School mission. And it was really fun. It was such an intimate group of women. There was about six of us out in the desert for 4 days, listening to ourselves and to the cactuses and one another. And what I found so profound about getting to spend more time with you is that you are so 100% yourself wherever you are. And I love that about you. But I know that that's not always been the case. So I would love to talk more about, you know, A, what drew you to the retreat, but kind of B, your healing journey and how it's been going, because I know it's going to be medicine for so many people listening, because a lot of people have been through very similar, I think, experiences as you, in the sense of having to grow up like way too soon, way too
Mhm.
soon.
Yeah, I really felt drawn to the idea of the maiden and the theme of the retreat being the art of unwinding. And I was really drawn in by that concept at first and really understanding those three archetypes of the maiden and the mother and the crone because I had really only heard of them and kind of assumed what they were, but didn't really have the clearest understanding. And when we met one on one and you explained more about the maiden, I just felt that deep, resonant yes, like I need to be part of this. And it really is because the maiden is all about not only all of the stages that we go through prior to motherhood, but really about play and joy and allowing yourself to be a kid and wild and all the things that sometimes whenever there was this pressure put on you when you're younger, whether it be actually verbally, physically put on you or just emotionally what you feel. It's not always the things that are said, but sometimes just the way that it hits us. And I think for me, just having young parents and being an only child and my parents definitely were still dabbling in their maiden a lot when I was growing up and really seeking out those fun experiences. And it really, a lot of the time, left me feeling like I did have to pick up the slack, at least emotionally, to take care of myself internally. And a lot of that ended up just feeling like weight. And it honestly led me to seeking out a psychology degree, understanding more about people. I've always felt very in tune with others' needs and very hyper aware of what's going on in the room, I think, because I had to at a very young age in order to stay safe and stay valued, is to show up in the way that they needed me to. So I feel like I'm just now, the past year or so, honestly, rediscovering those pieces of me that were long covered up that I really am letting out to play again. And this retreat was a huge part of that. But I really do feel like it all happened for a purpose. And I go back and forth with, you know, how detailed to be about my childhood because it's one of those things where it's not about placing blame or about, yeah, who did what or who said what, but it's really all of those things that happened led me to my purpose and were so intentional for me to get here. So I'm honestly at a point now, I know it weaves in and out, but I'm very thankful to have been through what I've been through with my family in order to really realize what my purpose is. And a lot of that is sharing what I've learned with other people.
And isn't it, we were talking a lot about that in Tucson. I had a lot of memories to share because for those listening that don't know, I grew up in Key West, Florida. I was always in Key West, and for 1 year of my life, we lived in Phoenix, Arizona. Randomly, 1 year, sixth grade. So on this trip, it was really interesting to me that dichotomy of just having to think about like, what if we had stayed there? What if we had never moved back to Key West? Like, what person would I be now? Would I even be hosting a retreat in Tucson leading these women if I had stayed growing up in Phoenix, Arizona versus going back to Key West? What would have happened if we had never ventured to Phoenix for the year? Like, would I have
Mhm.
even opened myself to those new experiences and then had to come back and face being a new kid all over again in seventh grade, with these kids I grew up with, right? But they had formed their cliques in sixth grade. And now all of a sudden here I am coming back. So it's all of these pivotal moments, I think, in our childhood that need to happen, but we need to heal from them in a healthy way to then see that gratitude, right? And I love that you're in that place of gratitude now because that's exactly where I am too, that everything had to happen the exact way it happened for
Yeah.
me to, find myself in the way that I have. And I love that you, with your podcast, The Lighthouse Within, when I want to talk more about that because I think the more that you find your lighthouse and you're a lighthouse for others, right? That ripple effect that we talk about all the time, but finding that light wasn't always easy. What
Mhm.
what has that journey been like? I know you've moved in and out of depression and just very deep feelings over the years. And I would love to hear kind of maybe what are some of the practices that have helped you with that. And, even I think the alchemy, right, of having your own podcast and of using that as a healing tool as well. I know you were talking about the inner critic last week, which I also would love to speak to because I think that's an important topic. Tell me all the things.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, from what you just said, I wanted to touch on the fact that it's definitely felt that you also are in a place of being at that full realization of like all the things that you've been to leading you to this point and having that gratitude. And I think that people can feel that. And I think that that draws you to the experiences that now are helping so many people. I think one of the biggest reasons why I needed the retreat is not only because of the topic of the maiden, which is so important, but also just being in community. I think
Yes.
that for me, a big piece of my story, since as long as I can remember, is just feeling like I had to do everything on my own
Mm.
and not feeling like I was truly sat down with and met at the level that I was at and just asked if I was okay. It was always assumed that I was okay and that I would be okay and that I'm the mature one. You're so mature for your age.
Oh
I'm
my God,
starting
don't you? I hate that
Yeah.
compliment now. Like at
Yeah.
the time, I loved it. It was like, yes, oh my God, I'm so grown up. I'm amazing. But like,
Yeah.
really, you're mature for your age, like means that you're hiding so many things, that you're probably tampering down so many things, that you're not expressing yourself
Yeah.
in the way that you probably need to with that age.
And I think that getting that compliment really shows also what's glorified in our society. Like
Oh my God, yes.
it's glorified to suppress how you really feel and show up and make the appearance and look perfect in order to play a role. And even when you're starting to really unwind into the maiden again, it feels like a performance at first because you don't know
Yes.
how to do that. You're like, "Oh, I'm just dancing around with women I don't know. Like I'm how can I not look at them, you know?
Yeah.
Like because you're
I
used to
love that
just
you.
picking up the vibe and not creating your own vibe. Like you're used to respond. Sorry, my dog.
No, to responding, but no, I think
To
that's a really
responding, right.
important thing to share because
Yeah.
you're right. I love that because we did talk a lot about that this last week of what's performative and what's not. But I
Hmm.
think to your point, when you don't even know how to be in that energy,
Hmm.
it's going to feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. And we have to acknowledge that maybe it is going to feel a little bit fake it till you make it for a minute, but that you have to let yourself like sit and move through that uncomfortableness, like, and
Absolutely.
Daphne and I were talking about that after the retreat that like, next time we were like, maybe we push their energetic edge. Like maybe it's not just
Hmm.
one song they're dancing around. Like maybe it's two songs. So they like
Hmm.
really feel it, you
Two whole
know?
songs. Oh my gosh.
How crazy would that be? But no, but really, like as a side note, we do tailor all of our retreats to the participants. And so this time around, one song was the energetic edge, and that's
Hmm.
okay
Hmm.
because each of you, I think, were more in your maiden by the end than you could have
Oh yeah.
ever hoped to be.
Hmm.
But it was still uncomfortable. It was still like, wait, play for play's sake. I don't know how to do that. Like, you
Hmm.
need to tell me the rules. You need to tell me, the parameters, the boxes that
Right.
I can do this in. And we blew up the box this weekend. And that's uncomfortable because
Hmm.
all of us, myself included, the box is safe. And
Hmm.
sometimes we leave one box just to put ourselves in another box,
Hmm.
especially I think in this like world of feminine spirituality and healing, right? We say we want to bust out of the box and then we put ourselves in the box of like another modality or of another teaching or of another practice, and then we say, oh, it has to be this way. No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
Absolutely. And it's like we create the box. We can set the box instead of the other way around. And
Oh, you're sweet doggy. I love it. They can play in the background. They want to be with us. They want their voices heard.
no, but that is so true. And I love that idea of the energetic edge and how you
I
find that.
Right? Because
Hmm.
I mean, I think one Kundalini, that's part of what I teach when I teach a Kundalini class is that that's really what it is sometimes. It's, yes, listen to your physical body. Like, I never want you to be doing something that is physically going to hurt you.
Hmm.
But if it's a mental thing and you're wanting to stop because you're uncomfortable, I always tell everyone, I'm like, can you just push past like what tiny millimeter more? Like, can you let yourself sit in that uncomfortableness 1 second longer than you think you can?
Hmm.
Because that's how you expand your capacity, your resilience, your ability to hold that window of tolerance is what we call it in breath work. You're always trying to expand that window of tolerance because it's not about never being uncomfortable. You're always going to be uncomfortable in life. Like that's life, but it's about how you handle those feelings and how you move through them.
Yeah, and I saw recently too something about resilience, and it really struck me about how resilience is really how quickly you get back to your baseline. It's not experiencing stress and the stress not affecting you because you're a human and the stress is going to affect you, but it's what not only coping mechanisms because those are great, but what capacity do you have that you've already built within yourself that you can return to that place whenever you need to. And I think something that just came up too is in the Maiden, it's really, for me, it's very layered because going back to my childhood, I think it's not only just the responsibility that I had to carry it all that can make it harder for me to just simply play and have joy for joy's sake, which was a lot of the retreat is trying to just create for creation's sake, have joy for joy's sake, and not have this purpose and this agenda behind it. And you even lovingly were teasing me at one point about like because I was asking for more instructions for things and you're like, we're gonna like it's okay, like we're gonna figure it out. And I'm like, yes, I needed that. Thank you. Um
And then you did, and it was beautiful.
yeah.
I say we made altar cloths. I'm wearing mine in my hair right now.
Oh yes,
I
I
was
have
watching the
mine right
YouTube
here
video.
and I
Yeah,
love it. Yes.
I love it.
Um but yeah, I feel like it's not only just having to turn off that rational part in order to lean into play, but it's also growing up and witnessing how my parents both prioritized play over, from what I witnessed, their connection, their experiences with me and just us as a family. I think I also grew up to internalized that fun was selfish or fun was bad because, and that if I were to be good or a good parent, then I would have to not do those things because that's the simplicity of a childlike mind, right? Is we have the imagination greater than our wildest dreams, but we also can only understand so much about the behavior that's going on around us. And the way that we internalize that is not something that a lot of our caregivers would ever choose. If they knew that we would, they probably would have behaved differently. But the point is, that's how I felt. And it took me years to even realize that weight that I was carrying constantly.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us from our childhood have these things that form our life experience? They form our rose-tinted glasses or our non-rose-tinted glasses, right?
Mhm.
And they form that perception that we have of the world. And it is going to be more black and white because our brains are not developed, because it is
Right.
this or that in our world. And you are not the only one that most likely felt like your expression was unsafe.
Hmm.
You know, that if they are unpredictable, then you need to be the predictable one. And I had a little bit of that growing up, and my parents divorced, and just my mom was a single mom, and she had a lot of anger and
Hmm.
didn't know where to put it. And I've talked about this before, but I took that on for a long
Hmm.
time and thought it was mine. And there's so many of us that were either only kids, were kids of young parents, kids of divorce, that I think we were all forced to grow up a lot faster than we needed to, or not even needed to, that we should have.
Hmm.
And then we wore it as a badge of honor that we didn't have the feelings, that we didn't play, that we were serious, that we were. I remember my first B, I cried and was so upset. My mom laughed at me. She was like, "Why do you care? Like, a B is still great. Like, why do you care?"
Hmm.
But I had internalized that, like, I had to be good, that everything had to be good, because if the chaos around me, right, if the only thing I can control is my behavior, then I'm going to be the best, and I'm going
Yeah.
to be the smartest, and I'm going to get the best grades, and I'm going to be a good girl. How many of us have internalized so many of those good girl habits that now hinder us being able to play, being able to be in our maiden more? And we talked about this at the retreat as well, that if you never actually heal your maiden, you're just going from unhealed maiden to unhealed mother. I did that. I absolutely did that. And I'm still unwinding a lot of that, in my daily life. Like when my kids have tantrums and I can't handle it, I know it's because I wasn't seen and met in those moments when I was little, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. And with the chaos that was going on around us, it also, all the space is taken up, right? So
Mhm.
they're taking up all the emotional space. And what's left for us? That's the meeting point I'm talking about, where being sat down with and met of what are your needs? Where are you right now? Are you okay? Are you here? And not in those exact words, but sometimes literally just sitting down and um yeah, I mean it feels like the simplest thing, but whenever you're in it and everyone has their own story, that a lot of people, I would argue most people, really do the best that they can with what they have. And I feel like that was a huge part of that was one of the first stages of really healing for me, was firstly realizing that nothing is personal and that nothing that they did was a reflection on me and that was their behavior. But then I had to go a step further, because while that's all well and good, that doesn't change the resentment or the anger or the sadness that lives inside because of those things. And so that's when the somatic work comes in, the getting in touch with your body, the actually releasing these things from you so that they're not attached to you. Those energetic ties that you've been speaking to also. I think that, yeah, it's like every stage that you get to, you're like, okay, this feels good. And you don't realize, and it's also really hard, but you don't realize there's always more to go. But I think I've finally gotten to a place where that doesn't feel so daunting anymore. It feels like something I can look forward to more, because I'm getting to a much more grounded place to where I know I always have that to fall back on. And that's the whole concept of Lighthouse Within, is that you've always had that. Nothing could take it away, nothing could really dim it out. A lot of the times it was the people that we trusted growing up. And then there were times when now we do it to ourselves. Because something I even touched on in my episode this week is guess what? They're not in charge anymore. You are in charge. You are in charge of how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself. If you have children, the way you treat them and talk to them and meet them.
And that's a
And
hard pill to swallow sometimes because
yeah,
it's so easy to perpetuate the behaviors and it's so
yeah.
easy to put the blame and say, well, I am the way that I am. But
hmm And it's easy to
mm,
see that as more responsibility, but you can also flip that and say, it's my calling. It's my calling to be the version of me that's actually met all those sides of myself so that I can show up in a way that has the mask removed and
mhm,
has the performance done. And realizing that a lot of it for me has come down to just a lot of things I've dealt with my physical health, mainly like weight and fluctuation and things I've dealt with. And I really have felt that in the past two retreats that I've been on last year and this year, but also I feel like that leaned into, or that led me to a huge part of my intention this weekend with the rose creation, which was such a beautiful craft that Daphne prepared for us. And I felt like the main thing that was coming through was that alignment and really that mind, body, and spirit. Because what I realized is that's a way that I can bring myself back into alignment is by realizing that when I'm feeling off or feeling floaty or feeling whatever it is, I can kind of think about which one of those is getting too much attention and which one needs more. And for me, it's a lot of mind. And so when I feel myself doing that and like, oh, well, what's the next step in the craft? Or what's the, like getting to in my mind, I can choose in that moment the spirit or the body. And spirit would be, pulling a card or prayer or calling a friend. And then the body, breath, stretching, short walk, just taking yourself out of that state and intentionally getting into a new one. So that word that came up for me was alignment. And then I wanted to share this with you too. I sent it to Dawn, another retreat person that came with us, and she's amazing. But I had sent her a screenshot yesterday because in the group chat that was from last year's day retreat in November, you had
oh, yeah,
messaged
yeah, the
us.
micro retreat. Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you had messaged us on the new year and you said, "Hi ladies, like what's your word for the year? I want to hold it in my heart for you." And um and Dawn said joy and
I
mine was
need to go back
alignment.
and look at this
Yeah,
text thread now.
I know.
Oh my
And mine was
God.
alignment. And
And
it's
it's
the
coming.
exact same word that I wrote on my pedal. And I forgot about it. And then I went back and looked because I was like, I think I have their phone numbers saved. And then yours was dare.
Dare.
Yeah.
I think I've definitely
You
dared this year.
have.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So that was just really cool. Is like
That's amazing.
you're
I'm
on the
so
right
glad you brought
path.
that up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
was cool.
last November, a lot of the ladies that came on the retreat this November, we did like a day retreat here in Atlanta. So it was
Mhm.
beautiful to get them back together, but holy cow, that's
Mhm.
really fun because yeah, I said dare and this dared to do a lot this year.
Yes.
Got the job, got the big tattoo,
And
started
look
the
at you
production
now.
company. I know. Look
I
at
know
that.
you're so much more embodied and yeah, grounded in your
And
Taurus
you are so a lot
energy.
like you truly though are like really in alignment. And I think the places that maybe you don't feel that yet are
hmm
coming.
Yeah.
Because I do think I mean we talked a lot about the body over the course of the retreat because that embodiment, that living as that future version of yourself can be hard. And as women, I think all of us have had issues with our bodies
hmm
over our lifetimes. You know, I have a long history with, eating disordered, or disordered eating, I should say, and, bulimia and not loving myself and body dysmorphia. And I know I'm not the only one.
hmm
And, the more that we do this work, my body shifts and I become more comfortable in my body. But not even just that, I move energy. So now my body is smaller because I am literally
hmm
carrying less energetic mass around. And I think anyone listening that maybe if you're struggling to feel healthy in your body, maybe you're struggling to lose weight, maybe you're struggling to feel any emotions in your body at all, you can start small just by breathing and squeezing each arm, like letting yourself really be present where your feet are, because so much of our life is spent in our heads. I think 80% of us, right, are living from the neck up. And then we don't want to listen to the signs from the body from on the neck down. We take a pill to forget it. We poke ourselves with a needle to change what we don't like. Like, and I'm not judging any of that. Please do what you need to do to feel better about yourself, but know why you're doing it. And know that there may be an energetic solution that you're not even thinking about because you are not connected to that mind, body, spirit connection, realizing that they're all going to affect one another, you know?
Absolutely. And there's always one that you can lean more into, and it's really just when you're feeling that sense of just being off, and we all know what that feels like for us individually. Try to see if there's one of those that you can lean more into in that moment. If not, just put a pin in it for when you can. I know that not all of us have the amount of time for themselves just individually that we'd like to, and sometimes you have to wait until the kids go to bed or wait until Saturday or whatever it is, but you still deserve that regardless.
Say that again.
You deserve that.
No, it's true. We
Yeah.
we talked a lot about worthiness too this weekend. And all of us are so much more worthy and deserving than we give ourselves credit for. Truly. And that kind of leads me to your topic this week on Lighthouse Within about the inner critic. Do you want to share a little bit more about maybe what's been coming up for you or
Mhm.
even we were talking about that self-talk right earlier, like do you find that you still have some self-talk that you're reprogramming, whether it's the words of others or your own?
Yeah, I have a lot of mental loops, and something that's helped me recently is the idea of closing the loop. And it was said in the context of like, if you have that drawer in your house that you've not been organizing for 3 months, and it's not that big of a deal, the drawer doesn't matter, but it's taking up that mental space in your mind. Close that loop by organizing the drawer. It's not about the drawer, it's about you having less mental chatter. And for me, I have those, but um, I organize my house almost to a toxic point, so mine are more psychological and emotional because I think we can only do so much. But yeah, I have a lot of negative inner critic loops to the point of almost obsessiveness at times, and I've had tendencies in my childhood and throughout the years that I've thought might be OCD. I don't think that they are because I don't meet, a lot of what's being described, but I think the the counting and the things that repeat over and over and over again and needing to do things a certain number of times before you feel complete. I think that a lot of those patterns in my brain were ways that I also kept myself really distracted as a kid. And
Mm.
so I think it's a lot of it for me is just habit.
Yeah.
And it's not even that I genuinely am connected to that feeling anymore, but I think it's one of those things where if you repeat it enough times, you probably are a little connected to it. But I think with the inner critic, it really is starting to separate that voice from who you really are. I think that can be one of the most impactful things is really understanding that as a separate voice, and all these pieces of you are separate voices. And that's not saying that it's a voice that you just want to pick up and pluck out and get rid of. That's not possible or something that you should want to do. It's a necessary part of you that was formed for protection, for your safety. A lot of times, from your caregiver's perspective, to keep you small enough in your environment so that you stay safe, so that you don't jump off that bridge. Um, but what's left behind is the feeling of, oh, I better not speak up, or I'm too much, or oh, I better not cause a ruckus, or I better not get the B, because that reflects badly on me, because we take all the things in our external environment and reflect them back to who we are. When really, if we start within with that lighthouse, the light that's always been there, and radiate outward, that's just a way more aligned way to live. But it takes a lot of work to get there.
Yeah, because so many other voices are on top of that voice. So
Hmm.
many layers, perhaps masks, right, that we've talked about are on top of that, like truth of who you are. And I love that you shared that we shouldn't get rid of the inner critic because I believe the same thing. It's there for a reason. It's a part of us. It wants to be expressed. That actually, when we try and get rid of it, or we try and get rid of the ego, or we try and get rid of these things that are quote unquote bad, like that's not the point. Eradicating them actually doesn't help. And it gets rid of the duality that we're here to experience, you know,
Hmm.
there is a purpose to it. It's supposed to keep us safe. I love doing what I call like inner critic, higher self journaling, where I'll let the inner critic out, let her say whatever she wants to say on one side of the page. And she's usually a big raging bitch. And then, I'll draw a line and I'll take some deep breaths. I'll connect with my higher self. And then on the other side, I'm like, okay, higher self, please tell me, is any of this true? And it's never the higher self is, nicer and kinder and more full of love. But it's good to see that sometimes we are the ones stopping ourselves, that we're the ones with the negative self-talk, that actually it's not everyone around us. And that internal narrative needs to shift. And to your point, it becomes habit when you say it enough, when you do it enough. So why wouldn't you talk nicely to yourself? Because then those beautiful thoughts are going to stick versus the ones that you don't like. But expressing the ones that you don't like is necessary so that you can let the light in, so that you can see where maybe you need to bring a little bit more love to yourself. Because we're not one or the other, right? We're all things.
Hmm. And that is the duality, is if you don't have the sides of yourself that you have to draw the line over, then you're not really able to recognize as much what that can teach you, honestly. I think a lot of it is meant to teach us and make us more resilient people. But I think something too that really, for some reason, when you were talking, I just remembered this from the retreat and I hadn't thought about it yet or remembered it. But when we were sitting there one night and Daphne is just so intuitive, obviously. We all know she's a queen. Happy birthday, by the way. Um, but she said something that really struck me because when you're really in touch with, when you have your finger really on the pulse, and that's how I would describe Daphne. She's really got her finger on the
Oh
pulse.
yeah. Like
And she's
insane.
someone, yeah, and she's someone that if you're not willing to look at yourself, she might be uncomfortable to be around.
Yes.
And that's why I love being around her because that type of challenge is like what I'm constantly seeking in my all my relationships is like, can we really see each other? And I know that I'm learning now that that's not necessarily appropriate for all your relationships. Like you're not supposed to, But what she said to me that really struck me is I've thought for so long, when you're down on yourself and you have that inner critic and you have these dreams and you're not achieving them, you can get in this pattern where you start thinking, oh, well, I'm just not good enough or I'm not strong enough to achieve that goal or I'm weak, right? And she pointed out, she asked me, like, are you afraid of how um like powerful you would be? And it just immediately was like, yes. So I think we have to realize sometimes that we're not just afraid of being failures, but we're really afraid of being successful. We're really afraid of what it looks like when we're fully exposed and how intimidating that could be to other people that aren't willing not only to meet you, but mostly meet themselves,
Hmm.
that aren't willing to go there. And her just asking me that question after knowing me for 3 days and the moment that we shared when I said yes, and she said, good, I want you to intimidate the shit out of me.
No, I
Like,
think she said intimidate the fuck out of me, but
yeah,
yes.
no, she was like, and I was like, I've never been spoken to like that. And it was literally like I was being breathed, like life was being breathed into me in that moment. And I was like, you're so right. You're so right.
Yes,
But
but
I
how many of
also,
us though, like
yeah,
have that feeling of too muchness,
yes,
And we are the ones that are keeping ourselves small because we're afraid other people can't handle it.
yes. And you joined in too and asked me, what did you say? You were asking about, are you afraid of essentially getting to the root of why are you afraid of what other people would think? Is it really because of you or is it because of them?
Yeah.
And it really came to light that I'm afraid that other people would receive what I have to say and feel badly about themselves. And both of you were like, oh.
Which as I just did it again because I was like, oh, because
And
it's
it
so
was,
it's so
yeah,
you, like you care so much about other people.
yeah.
And so to hear that like
But that's not noble, right? It's not noble to be an emotional martyr and need to, and not trust that people can handle their own shit. Like they can handle it. And if they can't, that's not my responsibility because
No.
guess what? I've already had enough.
Yes. And the
Yeah.
responsibility that we take on was also, I feel like, such a theme of the retreat that, like, all of us have taken on so much responsibility and guilt that's not even ours.
Hmm.
And again, maybe it's because you're the oldest child, you're the only child, whatever it is. But as women, we inherently take on the world and we think it's our fault or our problem or us. And there's so much of the world that, like, we don't need to take responsibility for. Like, that's how someone else reacts to me is not my business. Actually, I say that all the time that, like, what someone else thinks of me, like, is not my business. And I really shouldn't care and it shouldn't
Absolutely.
matter because if I'm letting them affect how I walk in the world, right? That's a problem.
Right.
But the too muchness, like, no. If you're listening, I want all of us to, like, go into the world after this episode and intimidate the fuck out of people in the best way possible.
With love.
Yes, intimidate with love, please. With love and light.
But with your light and bring that out because that's what makes you cool. That's what makes you the coolest person in the room. And we can all be that if we all show up in that way where the whole purpose of a lighthouse isn't to be looked at. It really is when it's shining and when it's operating properly, it guides other people home.
Mm,
It guides them back to their safe harbor. So it's not being the guru. And I think that that's also why I'm drawn to your work a lot is because I'm not the guru. I'm not the one with the answers. I'm the one who's also figuring it out. And let's talk about it. Let's illuminate some of that so that we don't feel alone. Because I
exactly.
guarantee you, so much of what helped me out on any circle that we go to or retreat is just, and it's usually the person you're sitting across from, but it always feels like you're, for some reason, so connected with your energy, and you'll be like, man, I feel that, and I really thought I was the only one that did. And you're not. And coming to terms with the fact that I'm not that special in the best way, but also I have a unique, the dichotomy of like, I'm not that special, but I also have a unique light to share has been really eye-opening and kind of makes me take it a little bit less seriously and have more fun with it rather than being like, okay, whatever I say is Bible and that's not, no.
No.
I could feel differently tomorrow,
It's that
and I'm
fluidity,
allowed.
that ability to change. It's part of who we are as women.
I'm allowed. Yeah, I'm allowing myself. And first time for everything, but I'm trying.
But I love that. And that was part of the medicine of the retreat too, was like to let
Hmm.
ourselves, like, do and be that,
Hmm.
and not have, like, the agenda. I have just I've loved this conversation so much, and I can't wait for you to share with people how can they find you, find the podcast, like, what's coming up for you, and then, of course, anything that is on your heart that you feel called to share, because you are your own beautiful channel, and, like, I just know that you have something special to share with everyone. So
Thank you. Well, first, my dog is clearly the whole podcast. They have something they want to share and they
I
want to say
know. I
hi.
kind of
So
want him to, like,
that's
bark into the mic.
so yeah, right. Just do a little woo,
Yeah.
little song. No, but thank you. I always love talking to you, and I'm recording. Right now is it's been kind of monthly, but I'm kind of moving to every other week, and I've been trying out just different types of content on Instagram and really seeing what flows and not again not overthinking it too much. And for me, my main passion with Lighthouse Within is sharing and kind of bringing things to light that we all go through, whether that's a solo episode or me having a beautiful conversation like this, which you're next, you're coming on because I
Yeah.
think that'd be so fun.
Yes, please.
But it really is that community piece and then also sharing resources. I have a resource page on my website that has a lot of the books that have kind of supported me at different parts of my journey. And you can click those books directly. It takes you to a bookshop link where you can buy those books secondhand and support local libraries as well. So
I
I
love that.
love the full circle of that. And yeah, at some point in the next year or so, my goal would be to put out some free guides, some resources that people can download and share, and just continue to build a repertoire of things that you can take what you need, leave the rest. I fully believe in that there's not one person that's going to have everything that you need, and that it's important to just take the pieces of it that resonate and trust that you're on the right path because you are. And the last thing I wanted to share is just the card that I pulled right before we started
Oh my God,
this
yes, please,
conversation.
please, please. Oh my God, Raina did the best card pulls for us. By the way, that needs to be coming soon. Like, readings by
That's the
Raina. But
first time I've
anyway,
ever done that. It's
ever?
yeah, I've never
No
done that.
way.
No, I mean my best friends and I will just like joke
Oh my God,
around,
no, readings by
but
Raina. It's a thing now. Okay, thanks.
thank you so much. You're the best hype woman. But the
Always.
card is from this Sufi Wisdom Oracle deck, which I'm very
Mm.
drawn to anything that is Rumi. And the card is trust your gut feeling.
Oh, I love that
And
picture.
the poem, I just want to read the poem at the beginning. Well, the title is Trust Your Gut Feeling, Let Your Heart Lead You to Who You Are. And then the poem says, each person has been made for some specific work. The longing for that work has been put into the heart. We waste our energy designing and carrying out plans to become what we already are. Rumi.
Mm, I
And that
love
about
that.
sums it up.
But that's beautiful. It's really true. We make all these
Yeah.
plans and it's going to happen naturally and
And
it's going to
growth doesn't
unfold.
have to feel like work all the time. When you think of it more like digging a well rather than climbing a mountain and realizing that there's no mountaintop, there's no I'm healed now, because every time you get to the top of that mountain, you see another one in the distance and the challenge is greater because you have more capacity. So I truly believe nothing is put in your path that you can't handle. And yeah, if you're listening, you're crushing it. Keep going.
Yes. Yes. And the fun, let yourself have fun. Fun is healing,
Yes. Yes.
that's fun is just as much medicine as the quote unquote
Fun
like
is healing.
hard
That's part of the
healing.
healing. Yes.
So if you
Yes.
want to have fun with us, Monarch Mystery School retreats, we'll have some more that we're announcing for 2026. We're going back to Mexico next May for the Return to
Woo.
You retreat. I think we may have planted a seed for Muir Woods while we were in Tucson. So
That
stay
kept coming
tuned.
up. You're so right.
Well, and then, okay, so then I came home also, and the book I was reading also had Muir. And I was
No
like,
way.
okay,
Okay. Well,
actually, okay, so they had Muir Woods and they also had New Mexico.
okay. It's
Because
like
we
three
were
strikes you're in. Like we
yeah,
got to make
like
this
it's
happen.
it's
Yeah.
happening. So anyway, Muir Woods at some point next year, guys, if you want to join us, the art of becoming. Um,
I love
and
that.
I'm so excited to continue to watch you blossom, Reina. And anyone listening, please, please, please go check her out on Instagram, Lighthouse Within, or it's Lighthouse dot within.
Oh, good
Correct?
memory.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yes. And if you are loving these conversations, please, please, please continue to share Flip the Script with Vic with your family, your friends. The more that we can spread the word and have these open conversations as women, I think the better off we're all going to be. So please like, rate, subscribe, review, all the good things. Thank you so much, Raina. I love you. I love everyone listening. Be good to one another. I'll see you real soon.
Bye.